Dragon Quest Heroes 2 has finally arrived, and I'm loving this game right now. It's amazing. I also didn't know how to start this video if you couldn't tell, but it's like I always say, when in doubt, initial D. Dragon Quest Heroes 1 that came out last year was actually my favorite game of 2015. A game I wasn't expecting to like because outside of One Piece Pirate Warriors 1, Musou games were never really my thing. But Dragon Quest has made me a believer yet again. Imported all the way from the land of we make better games than you filthy Westerners, Japan. It's Dragon Quest Hirozu 2 Stagumo Oto Yogeno Owari for the PlayStation 4. It's also available on the PS3 and Vita in Japan, but just like most things that come from Square Enix to the West, it'll most likely remain on the PS4, probably PC later on. Now you guys know I like to start my reviews talking about the story, but I'm not gonna do that this time. And why? Well, last time in my Dragon Quest Builders review, I made a joke saying that the Dragon Lord was plotting to take over Dreamworld and delay Nier Automata in the process. And that actually happened, so I mean that kind of destroyed the plot of the game, meaning that the villain won, and that doesn't happen at the end of this game. That means I just lied to the consumer there. I gotta be careful with my words. That, and I can't read Japanese, so I really have no idea what's going on. But it seems like war has broken out between the different kingdoms. There's a big misunderstanding, and then they team up to bring peace to the world. Or so the Dragon Quest Heroes 2 Wikipedia tells me. Dragon Quest Heroes 2 was such a huge improvement over the first game. It took what was great about that game and expanded upon it several times over. At the beginning of the game, you can choose between a male character or a female character. It doesn't really alter the game that much. The only thing it does is that you can never take this character out your party. I chose the male character because dude's got dual blades. That's my weapon of choice. He's also like decked out in all green, one of the greatest colors of all time, and his hair is purple. Was this character made for me? And if so, thank you. I also make my characters have purple hair when I customize them, just like in my Dragon Quest Builders review. That shameless plug. The female character's stock weapon is a shield and a one-handed sword. But one major addition to this game that I liked, and one that I would like to see video games do more in the future, is that they weren't tied to those weapons. When you talk to the priest in the city, you can tell the priest your prayer, and then he'll pray to God to change your class for you to anything that you want. I think that's what's going on here. I'm not entirely sure. That's just what I think I'm seeing. I could be entirely wrong. It's not the first time. You know, I can see the Blandrew exposed videos already. But getting back to changing your weapon, you can have an axe be your main weapon, a two-handed sword, claws, bow and arrow, and so on. The classes boil down to priest, which is healing, and your main weapon is a staff. The warrior, where you're more aggressive, and your weapons are a sword and shield, dual blades, and an axe. The fighter class, which is staffs and claws, and the magic class, which is whips, canes, and scepters. The best part about these classes is that they all possess their own abilities and powers when using them in battle, which means... What does it mean, class? It means that it'll change up the gameplay drastically. I love the fact that they thought, well, you're not going to be able to swap out the main character you chose in the beginning, but to make it up to you, here's all these weapons and classes that you're able to choose from. And that's just a beautiful thing. One thing to note is that this is only available for the two main characters. Everybody else just sticks with their class and you can't change them. So if you were hoping to have Jessica on your team as a swordsman, can't do that. I'm sorry, guys, it sucks. I'm not sorry. Why am I apologizing to you guys? Now, the downside to changing your class is that each class starts at level 1. It doesn't automatically level up just by playing the game. You have to put time and work into each of these classes to level them up one by one. So you'll start to question yourself if it's even worth it. You know, going from a level 40 weapon to a level 1 weapon kinda sucks. Your weapons also stay at their level when you swap them out. They don't reset back to level 1 if you were wondering. Anybody who played the original Dragon Quest Heroes can immediately tell that this game is much bigger than the first game. The first game took place on its ship, which was that game's hub world basically, and you would fly to any place that you want on the map and then it would take you there. When you were in those levels, it felt more like big areas than it did a giant world. But this game, it's enormous. Let me try saying that with special effects this time. Enormous! Special effects just make everything sound better. It really feels like you're in a Dragon Quest world, and the environments are just beautiful. It's the best Dragon Quest has ever looked. Now, there really isn't much to do in this open world outside of fight special enemies, which I got murked, find treasure, activate ruler stones for fast traveling, and saving commoners. The commoners will always be getting attacked by enemies when you see them, and when you fight off the enemies to save them, they'll reward you with a nice boost of experience points. The combat remains just as fun and engaging as the original game, but the main difference in this game is that you can play as some of the monsters by using their monster medals. Monster medals make a return in Dragon Quest Heroes 2, but this time, some of the monsters will become playable if you activate their medal, in which you can use all 3 of their abilities for a certain amount of time by pressing square, triangle, or the circle button. This mode will also make you invisible until the meter runs out. Next up, running. Yeah, you can run this time. I never realized how important running was until I went back to play the first game to record footage. But yeah, you can run. Hooray for running. Alchemy. Alchemy has been improved this time around. You can upgrade your existing items by following a flowchart and making sure you have the necessary ingredients to upgrade. People, this game, it's amazing. It feels like an actual RPG, just with a hack and slash combat system. Now for the negatives. Now there really isn't much negative I could say about this game, but it did have some annoyances. Dragon Quest Heroes 2, hell, the series in general, loves its jingles, and they're proud of them, as they should be, because those are some great jingles. The problem comes with the fact that whenever you accomplish a mission or a goal, you have to sit through this jingle every single time. Now this is kind of nitpicky, but when you have a lot of missions that you completed and you just want to submit them all at once, you can't do that. Let's say you completed like 20 missions, but you never report it back to the lady. You have to sit through this for each one of those submissions. And while her clapping at me is adorable, some of the greatest clapping in video games of all time, it could get annoying having to repeat this process over and over again. Another thing, you can no longer spend your tokens on skills as you so please. In the first game, as long as you had the money and experience points, you could spend your money on whatever you want outside of special attacks where they follow a chain system. But you can't do that this time around. You need to be a certain level before that skill opens up so that you can spend your coins on it, which is kind of disappointing that they limited leveling up this way. And finally, you can no longer charge your ultimate move like you could in the original game, and your ultimate meter takes longer to fill up without the proper upgrades. And okay, yeah, I can see why they did that this time around, probably because it quote-unquote broke the game. You could charge up your characters and then just be on your way, but there were times in this game that the difficulty just spiked like crazy. Now I'm not sure if I was playing the game on hard, but there were times when I was doing just fine, just for a giant enemy to pop up and kill me. There goes one of those famous Dragon Quest jingles. That's pretty much where the negatives stop. Overall, Dragon Quest Heroes 2 is my second favorite game this year. Actually, it's my second favorite game on the PS4. Only second to Dragon Quest Builders. It's crazy how Dragon Quest has managed to make me fall in love with genres that I normally don't care for. The ultimate test would be making a Dragon Quest shooter. Dragon Quest Heroes 2 is a great game that I'd highly recommend. The amount of time it took me to complete the single player was about 44 hours. You could take away like 2 of those hours since I left my PS4 on. One day I went to go to the dentist. I failed my hero, Chip Skylark. I'm sorry. But adding multiplayer into the mix, when you're playing with family, friends, and even randoms, you'll easily clock in over 50 hours. Speaking on the multiplayer, oh yeah, this game has multiplayer now. Hooray for multiplayer. I didn't get a chance to test the multiplayer. I really wanted to test out the online in this game, since online was something I really wanted in the first Dragon Quest Heroes, but I was never able to find any other players. So sadly, I can't talk about it for this review. I tried multiple times for days, but I was never able to find anybody to play with. Maybe I'll get more luck in the future whenever this game gets a Western release so I can play with friends, but I guess I can still talk about it since I am a decent human being. I was gonna say a good one, but I'm not. Multiplayer for Dragon Quest Heroes 2 is basically just horde mode. For those of you who don't know what that is, it's just where they throw lots and lots of enemies at you to fight. You can team up with 3 other people and fight hordes of enemies together. Now from what I'm seeing, there's also something that looks like a boss mode where you can fight big bosses also. And when I say big boss, I mean like a giant boss, not the big boss from Metal Gear. I'm getting off track here. If you were expecting to play through the entire game with somebody else, well, no. You can't do that. There was never a dull moment with Dragon Quest Heroes 2, and you don't need to understand Japanese to play this game for the most part. Dragon Quest Heroes 2 gets a yes out of recommend. Thanks for watching, guys. Let me know what you guys think. I'll talk to you guys later. Take care. There's a plane flying over my house, and have a good one.
リケーンを起こすこれがグレーマー選手は今